My name is Eric Walsh. We are at the Aquarium of Niagara in Niagara Falls, New York, the U.S. side, not the Canadian side. And I am our digital content producer.
Hello, I'm John Rossi. I'm a touring drummer with a passion for animal conservation. When I'm on the road, I spend as much time as possible visiting zoos, aquariums, and conservation organizations. Now, I want to share those places with you. I'll be talking to keepers, vets, conservationists, anyone who can help me in my mission of connecting my people to animals through their people. Join me on my Rossifari. Hello, 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 and welcome back to an all-new episode of the Rossifari podcast. I'm really excited about this one, y'all. So, as most of you who follow the pod know, I am now kind of splitting time between Philly and the Buffalo area. And if you don't know this, Buffalo is right by Niagara Falls, and that means that I am right by the Aquarium of Niagara, which is a really nice, small but mighty facility that is located in Niagara Falls. And there's a whole lot going on at Aquarium of Niagara right now. It's actually really cool. As I started talking to my guest today about getting the aquarium onto the podcast, I kept seeing little news stories and articles and cool, posts on Instagram and TikTok about the aquarium and the expansion that they're going to be undergoing and new animals that are coming in. And if you've been paying attention, you've actually heard today's guest, Eric Walsh, on the podcast before, because he was on Zoo News telling us about some exciting new developments at the aquarium, namely the fact that they are getting a sea turtle. So yeah, this is one of those episodes that starts off and it's just kind of a great experience and interview, but then I quickly realized, Aquarium of Niagara is really going to be part of the Rossifari family now. There's going to be a lot of opportunities to talk about the growth going on there, the exciting new things happening there, and since I'm up here a lot, I can go and be a part of all of that. And it's a great place. I'm excited to have them as part of the Rossifari family. So before we get to that interview, a couple of things, all those friendly reminders to make sure that you hit subscribe, make sure that you're following at Rossifari on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and at Rossifari Pod on TikTok. You can support the pod by going to patreon.com/Rossifari. Yay, that. Okay, those are the things. So let's get to it. New place, new friend, excited about all this. As a matter of fact, I'm cutting this intro a little short because as soon as I finish recording this in the outro, I'm heading back to Aquarium of Niagara to hang out. Looking forward to that one as well. I'll catch y'all on the other side. But here's my interview with Eric Walsh of Aquarium of Niagara.
Basically, I'm the jester with the password behind the keyboard on the social media stuff you see. But I also do the visuals and the video that we put out.
Love that. Awesome. And let's talk a little bit about how you got here, because even though you do digital content creation now, you actually come from like an animal background, right?
I do. Thank you. So I do. I spent my first nearly 6 years at the aquarium as a marine mammal trainer, working with our seals, sea lions, and some with the penguins. And I had about 3 internships before that with marine mammals and a lot of big cats, actually. So I made the transition to this role about a year and a half ago, a little under a year and a half. So I miss my animals, but I love getting the chance to talk about them and love being able to bring that experience into this role.
Makes sense. So what got you into the animal world? Like when you were growing up, did you know you wanted to do this? What's your story?
4 years old, I got jumped on by a Weimaraner dog in my neighborhood.
Okay.
I remember it clear as day. And I was walking around a corner with my grandma, actually, and big dog came around the corner, knocked me down. And instead of having a fear of animals, I was like, yep, this forever. Like I want it all. I always wanted animals growing up. I always wanted to visit zoos. I always said I wanted to be the next Steve Irwin, So everywhere we went, I wanted to go to the zoo or the aquarium. I wanted to have the pets. And absolutely, this was one of those things that I knew animal care was what I wanted to do. And that actually helped me a lot, because one of the biggest questions we get in this field is, how do you become an animal caretaker? How do you become a trainer? And when you know that's what you want to do, it's a lot easier to kind of sculpt your path to get there.
Yeah, that makes sense. What was your path?
So I did it exactly like we write it up. I volunteered at animal shelters when I was in high school, got a volunteership at the Nashville Zoo, my hometown, right out of high school, did full-time internships at the Nashville Zoo, Indianapolis Zoo, and then was in my third internship when I got interviewed here, and the rest is history.
Very cool.
And I studied zoology in college and environmental studies, and did my study abroad in Africa. So I got to study about wildlife management, really interested in the human perception of wildlife, which really applies to the zoo and aquarium field. University of Wisconsin, go Badgers. I was able to really tailor my experience and really get to focus a lot on how we think about the animals that are around us. I apologize for cutting you off.
No, that's great. That's really cool. That's really cool. And you're the second badger that I've met. The first one was an actual badger, though. So, I liked that one more, honestly. No offense, but animals are better.
I would too.
Yes. So, cool. Let's talk a little bit about those internships. So both Nashville and Indy have been on the pod a couple of times. Big fan of both facilities. Tell me what your time was like at Nashville.
It was eye-opening in that it was very affirming. I knew what I wanted to do. When I was a volunteer, I knew I wanted to be an animal caretaker. I had a lizard growing up, so I started in herpetology and split time between herpetology and carnivore teams. And the herpetology was fine. It was interesting, got to hang out with that, but getting up close to the big cats and everything. And I always joke that working with big cats is like, oh, you're a tiger. It is really hard to look at a big cat or just a cat in general and not just be enamored. Right. Yeah. And then hearing about the breeding program and the SSP with the clouded leopards and the work they were doing with that, I also really found an interest in those smaller to medium sized cats as well. And having the opportunity to work so closely, they were working on introducing some programming with the clouded leopards, which was really unique, especially at the time. Clouded leopards aren't as widely represented as some of the other cat species. So getting able to be a part of that. And then when I went back for my internship, I was exclusively with the carnivore team, which opened up some even more opportunities. And again, getting to be there as cubs are being reared and getting to see what goes into, that was my first taste of the SSP program and genetics and how those things are all balanced out. I got to provide enrichment and put enrichment around, which is where my love of enrichment came from. So it was just a really great opportunity to really be exposed to what it is like being in the animal care field, what goes into it, and also how AZA facilities are run and how much goes on under the surface and what a good facility can do for the animals under its care.
Absolutely. Very cool. And then when you went to Indy, you were working with the marine mammals there, right?
I was. So it was a split internship. I spent some of my time with marine mammals, some of my time with carnivores, forest carnivores, bears, polar bears. They also had tigers, and dolphins, sea lion, seal, and walrus. My first day, my intern mentor, shout out Trent, and he was like, the walruses are going to be your favorite animal. And I knew nothing about walruses going in, and I am now obsessed with walruses. So absolutely. It was such a unique, such a different story. I had always had an interest in marine mammals, which is somewhat ironic considering Tennessee is the most landlocked state in terms of touching other states without touching a major body of water. You can take that with you to bar trivia. But I had always loved the concept of the relationships and the training and how smart they are and the social structure. And so getting to see that, and also just the different types of marine mammals, the way that dolphins interact versus the way that walruses interact versus the way that sea lions interact versus the way that a polar bear behaved, was all so different. And within one opportunity, I got to see so many different things and interact in so many different ways that it was really special. And what was a big benefit as well is already having one internship under my belt really helped me understand the process and be able to really maximize my time, because it wasn't just about learning how to be an intern. I was really able to focus on the animal side of things, and their staff did a phenomenal job. And I I missed that internship a lot. And it's a great facility. I followed some of the animals I went to see where they had gone to other facilities. Made some really strong connections there. So have some great stories out of it. So it was a very good time.
Cool. And you know Erica Allen, right? She was there at the time?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do. She's awesome. I was telling you a story earlier today about she was sharing her story and why she connects with dolphins, and just one of those genuine people who really care about the animals that they care for and know why they're doing it. So I still follow her Facebook. She's a social media influencer, at least just for me. So
she is one of the coolest. Yeah, no, it's funny too, as you talk about these places, man, I haven't been to either facility in a little while, and you're making me miss them both so much, especially the walruses.
Right.
I mean, getting to hang out with walruses was very cool. But, also getting to hang out with penguins and sea lions is cool. So let's transition to talking about what we did today here at Aquarium of Niagara.
Absolutely.
It was a great day. First of all, let me say thank you for the tour of the aquarium and getting to go and hang out with some of these awesome animals. But yeah, tell people about what we did today.
So the Aquarium of Niagara has been around since 1965. We are an AZA accredited facility. We're accredited by the Alliance of Marine Mammal Parks and Aquariums, which is a little lesser known, but actually a little harder to get accreditation. Because it is so focused in on the marine mammals. And then our training program is accredited by the International Marine Animal Trainers Association. So we're small but mighty, as we like to say. And our real kind of flagship stance is every animal that we have has a story. We just went through a major rebranding campaign and we added, the tagline "Where Inspiration Swims." And it's because you have the opportunity to walk up to any exhibit or any animal and know that there is intention as to why they're here. There is intense care put into them being on display and on exhibit, and each one has a story to tell and something you can walk away with. So we gave you the opportunity to come in and not only learn those stories, but we recently, as we've expanded our footprint, we found some TikTok fame, found some Instagram fame. So you got to meet our social media star, Ari, one of our 13-year-old California sea lions. She was rescued 3 different times off the coast of California as a pup, actually, before they were like, you might not be able to handle it out here. And she found the aquarium as her forever home. She went on a breeding loan to the Brookfield Zoo. So she's a perfect example of how facilities work with each other to make sure these genetics are well represented, to make sure these populations under human care are well represented. And then she came back to us. So she's a fantastic ambassador animal. She's a fantastic presentation animal. So you even got your hands a little fishy in terms of getting to test your trainer skills out too. You did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was really cool getting to not just see the behaviors, but ask for them and also get to reward with the fish. Fish are so stinky. One thing that's funny about me is I don't like seafood at all. And when I was younger, the smell of fish could actually make me vomit. And if you would have told, 5th grade John that adult John would be handing raw fish to other smelly animals, he would not have believed it. But it is such a rewarding experience. So thank you for that. And how did you manage to make Ari TikTok famous?
If you could answer that, that'd be great. I have no idea. I dedicate every single day to trying to crack these algorithms, and I don't know. I think what's really great is I kind of just threw that up on a whim because I was happy because it was cute for me. I didn't ask. We do these sessions where the animals are trained to go over to the window, and we actually have a program at the aquarium where you can pose for a picture with one of our sea lions, and we do a training session. So it's a form of enrichment. It's an encounter program. It's a form of training. It's really great. And so I used to do that, obviously, as a trainer. And I was just standing there watching the show, reminiscing, and just happened to have my phone out because I like to show things from different angles. And Hallie saw me in the window and sent Ari over. So I was just happy to share because it was a happy, warm little moment for me. But Ari is a very recognizable sea lion, and those big, bulgy eyes can be spotted from a mile away. And that's what all of the comments were saying. Like, look at the eyes, look at the eyes, look at the eyes, look at the eyes. And I think that's what it was. I think she's so personable. I think she's so connecting. And it was such a kind of genuine moment that I think that really shone through. And we're a smaller facility. Like I said, we have a smaller social media following. So if I get, 1,000 likes or something, or 100,000 likes, I mean, this thing was going up hundreds of thousands. We're getting millions of views. I'm like, what is this? Is insane. So it was also just incredibly rewarding for me. Kind of like, that's why I transitioned from the roles and to be able to still talk about these guys, to be able to spread them on a wider platform. So to see it go so viral was extremely validating. It made me so happy to be able to connect these animals. And if I could figure out why, I would do it every time. But I am just going to enjoy that it did and hope that it happens again.
Yeah, no, same. I have, all of my drumming with elephant videos are over 100 million views combined. It's insane. It's the coolest thing ever. I posted something 4 days ago that got, I think, 40,000 views just on Instagram, doing great. Posted a thing yesterday, got like 400 views. They're all like cool, cute animal things.
Mm-hmm.
I shrug my shoulders and just keep trying.
Right.
But yeah, it's crazy. To me, where literally the best way to promote podcasts is just through a social media, building your social media and then telling them about the podcast. Or in your case, where a lot of your job is just to try to bring awareness of the animals and the great work done here through social media. And none of us actually know. And it keeps changing too. Like
Absolutely.
I know Instagram just announced they're going back to more focus on photos because people are complaining on the focus on videos. And it was actually the day they announced that my last video really, like, the one took off.
Yeah.
Not the one that died, but the one that
Right.
took off. And I was like, yeah, of course. None of this ever makes sense. It's all a joke.
Right.
Yeah. It's really interesting. But I will say, and I know I mentioned this before to you, but I want my listeners to know, a big part of why I'm here today is because of the work that you have done. I feel like Aquarium of Niagara is showing up a lot more on my Instagram feed, on my TikTok feed. And it reminded me that y'all were here. I've been here before, but, it had been a while. And I'm seeing what y'all are doing. And I could tell that it was a great place because I could see what you were doing. So you're doing a killer job with it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And that's, you're not alone in that kind of, that's what we love to hear. And we definitely do want you guys to remember that we're up here and to know that, but we can get a little overshadowed. We're up here in Niagara Falls on the US side. So sometimes we can get a little overshadowed by the Canadian side of the falls. Toronto is only 2 hours away. Buffalo is about 30 minutes away. And the reality is it's all one big ecosystem and we're love where we are located. I mean, you can literally look off our roof and see Niagara Falls, which is absolutely wild. But one thing we've worked on both through our rebranding process and through our social media is say, hey, man, we're here. Like, we are here. We've got some great animals. We have some fantastic stories to tell. We're doing good work both here and out in the community. And if we can have a little bit of fun with it, doing it, then that's awesome too. And let's bring it in so we can tell you more.
Yeah, I love that. So there was one animal, other than the goobs that I got to meet, that just really stood out to me today. And y'all have cuttlefish here. And I would love for you to go as deep as you can on that, because I was mesmerized.
So we do have dwarf cuttlefish, and I can attest that you were mesmerized, and it was great to see. And that's what we love to see. Here's somebody, you were saying earlier, you visit 170 zoos and you still see exhibits that catch your attention and catch your eye and captivate you. And so imagine what that can do to someone who's never been to a zoo or aquarium, right? And you never know what's going to catch. My daughter, when she first came here, we have penguins and sea lions. I took her into the sea lion backup, and I have a very cute video of her playing with one of our sea lions. But and she was enamored with some salmon we used to have on exhibit. Salmon. Mm-hmm. Not cuttlefish, not cichlids, not this beautiful $15,000 on the black market Asian arowana, not, puffer fish, not the octopus that we had at the time. Salmon.
Yep.
So it's insane what catches some people. But these cuttlefish, it was cool to see that, because that's exactly why we brought them in. So the cuttlefish are part of a transitioning gallery that we have called Losing Our Cool that talks all about how warming ocean temperatures are affecting animals. Now, these dwarf cuttlefish are a warm water species. So you might be thinking, hey, what's the problem with warm water getting slightly warmer? Well, even they have a range, and water chemistry changes as the water temperature changes. Now, what makes these cuttlefish interesting is that they only have lifespans of about 9 to 13 months before they go through their natural senescence cycle. So they live fast and die young, if you will. But what that means is they are actually very sensitive to changes in their environment. They can have massive generational effects if all of a sudden, there are these big changes or large weather events or just overall patterns where they have to transition and change a little bit. That generational turnover happens quickly. So you can see major population impacts and differences in a short period of time, even though they are a warm water species. But what's really cool about our cuttlefish exhibit that a lot of people don't know them. You know squids, you know octopuses, you know other marine life. Not many people know what a cuttlefish is. And so being able to put them on display is great. But what's really cool is because they do have that little bit of a shorter life cycle, guests can see the entire process. So we just recently had eggs laid on exhibit and hatched out on exhibit. Next week, they're going to be going on to exhibit the juveniles as the older one transitions off. And so you get to see an animal's entire generational pattern and pathway, and then their whole life cycle happen right in front of your eyes. So if you come back twice within a year, you might have seen a cuttlefish as an egg and then on exhibit as an adult later. And that's super cool. And they, as themselves, are incredibly fascinating animals. They're one of my favorite animals to document and share on our social media. They changed colors. They have these really crazy feeder arms that come out when they grab stuff. They have these crazy eyes that allow them to see all the way around, both for predators and for prey. They're just a fascinating little species, and they are so almost alien that your eye is just naturally drawn to them.
Yeah, and they can ink, and the eyes are really, like, if you haven't seen it, like, look up cuttlefish eyes. It's really, really cool. And the color change is so fast and so complete. I have seen a lot of species. I mean, I've seen it in octopodes. I've seen it in chameleons. But I remember I asked you, especially because it went from white to black in that particular moment when we were there. And I remember asking if it was changing color, if it was the lighting, because honestly, it was like a switch. And I had never seen anything like that before. Even when I've seen octopodes change color, it's always like not a gradual, but you can see it happen. And this was like, I felt like I had blinked and there was a different cuttlefish there. It was so cool to see.
Absolutely. You can. It's like, they're like Houdinis. Yeah. If I was taking a video of one, it might go behind a decor one color and come out the other side another color. You'd think I'd switched them out on you. And they change color for different reasons. You know, if they're hunting, they look a certain way. If they're trying to camouflage against something, they look a certain way. If they're giving a territorial display to another cuttlefish, they look a certain way. Even the texture can change slightly sometimes from a really smooth, sleek to a little rougher, depending on how. They are absolute masters of disguise.
It's just so cool. Do you find it's I don't know, challenging at all? We talk a lot on this podcast about compassion fatigue and about how hard it is to lose animals and stuff. And so when you have an animal that has such a naturally short lifespan, is that a challenge? Or is it just one of those things where it's just kind of like, okay, you know that, so you know to, keepers know to keep their distance a little bit. It's not like you can, cuddle a cuttlefish anyway, but just, in general, what are your thoughts on that?
It is. And it's, especially I think coming from an animal care background myself, I can always appreciate what keepers go through. What's really unique about cuttlefish and even some of the species of jelly that we have is it's a learning opportunity. And it's an opportunity to teach about why these animals go through these cycles. And it's definitely easier when you have an animal that has a short life cycle, and you're watching that life cycle complete. So, for example, you see a cuttlefish lay eggs or you see an octopus lay eggs, you're like, okay, now I know what comes next. And it's almost actually a sign of a healthy animal. If they complete their life cycle as they would naturally, that means I did my job. I cared for them correctly, especially on these ones that have the smaller care. So I think for us, it's a chance to say, when someone asks, hey, I was here a month ago and there was a full-size cuttlefish and now there's 5 tiny pebbles looking things on exhibit, what happened? And you can say, well, cuttlefish only live 9 to 13 months, the species, and they go through their natural senescence cycle. And so now you have the opportunity to watch these guys move through that process again. And that's just not something you get to see a lot under human care. And like I said, it's also a great opportunity to show care, to show that these animals were able to complete their life cycle healthily, with no issues on the way, and successfully reproduce as well, and do everything that they were supposed to do. And that's a real tribute to the amazing animal care staff we have here at the aquarium.
Absolutely. And I think that's really cool. I look forward to coming back and seeing the little ones and, hopefully going through their life cycle with them, coming back a couple times and checking it out because I'm up here and I'm a fan. So, let's talk about the shining jewel of the aquarium where we got to hang out for a little bit, which is the penguin exhibit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's talk about that and let's share about the colony.
For sure. So Penguin Coast opened in 2018 with the tagline "Up Close and Playful," and it has lived up to the billing. So the aquarium has been around since 1965, and there have been a lot of changes over the course of our history. And as we looked into AZA accreditation, that was one of those places that was a real priority. How do we increase these penguins, and how do we maximize their welfare and livelihood? And we undertook what was at that point the largest capital campaign in the aquarium's history, is about $3.3 million. And we're able to facilitate a beautiful new habitat. So Penguin Coast features 17 nest boxes. We have the capacity for about 26 birds if we really wanted to utilize all of the space that we have. We currently have 16. And what it really did, the biggest thing that Penguin Coast allowed us to do, has 12,000 gallon pool, has a floor to ceiling viewing window so kids can get right up close and interact with the birds. They also love keys. So spoiler alert, if you ever come to the aquarium, jingle some keys in front of the exhibit, you're sure to get some interest. But what's amazing is kids of all ages, adults, little kids, little toddlers who can barely stand. You're literally beak to nose with a penguin right there. So from a conservation perspective, it allowed us to really make an impact on the species survival plan. We were able to bring in other birds from the facilities. We had a geriatric colony prior to that that was not having successful offspring because they had passed the median life expectancy. They were being cared for well, but they just weren't at the point of reproduction as much anymore, or successful reproduction. So we were able to bring in those new species. And since the exhibit's open, we've had 2 pairs of penguin chicks born back in 2020 and this last year in 2022, which is also really amazing that we can include guests in that process of as they venture onto the exhibit for the first time. We had a public naming contest for one of our chicks born in 2022. So the public really got to be involved in that as well. So not only are we displaying these animals, we're actively contributing to the awareness about them and the challenges Humboldt penguins face out there off the coasts of Peru, and the challenges of overfishing off the Humboldt Current and everything like that. We're able to generate questions like, why is there no ice in that exhibit? Oh, well, that's only because only 4 species of penguin live where ice is. These guys are warm weather penguins. We're able to talk about how we care for these birds, how overfishing is a problem and you need to do that. So it just facilitates everything in such a fantastic way to bring people right up close and personal. And like you said, they're definitely the fan favorites. And if you didn't believe it, we had a tournament, March Madness style tournament last year that they won handily after some penguin fans took it upon themselves to make sure that they did. So it's just been a really special opportunity. And it's also the first exhibit that you see when you walk in. So you turn the corner after buying admission and Penguin Coast is right there. So you are literally greeted by a bird the second that you walk in the door. And that is just such a special experience, and really introduce people to what we're trying to do and the level of engagement that you can expect once you walk in.
And it's right across from the sea lions too. I mean, it's really crazy because it's a small aquarium, a very good one, great usage of space, but it is a small aquarium. And you walk in and you turn right and immediately on your right are penguins and immediately on your left are sea lions. And it's like, oh, okay. Small but mighty for sure. Because I do remember the first time that I came here thinking like, oh, is this going to be a bunch of 20-gallon aquariums and which can still be great. There are great aquariums that are mostly that. But you walk in and you get hit hard with some really cool animals. And I do really enjoy that aspect of it.
Absolutely. That's one thing that does make us special is you can get right up and close with these guys. And not only that, we have we have programming as well, penguin encounters, seal encounters, pose with a sea lion or pose with a pinniped, encounters where you can get a selfie up with a sea lion up close at the glass. So one of the things that we really focus on is you are going to make memories. You are going to make connections. You are going to feel inspired when you come here. If you take a second to look at these animals and let yourself be immersed in those exhibits, I promise you, you will find something, whether it's a cuttlefish, whether it's a penguin, whether it's a sea lion, whether it's a salmon,
Yeah.
You will find something.
Yeah, absolutely. And, in talking about the staff here, and we got to meet a lot of them, incredible team. It seemed like some really amazing people here. I'm curious what your take is on, like, at a small facility where you're not going to have, a team of 30 people that are taking care of the penguins, et cetera. What impact does like one person have on this facility?
I think one thing that we do very well is we let people have the opportunity to take control of situations and make their mark. So back when I was in training, for example, I was the enrichment coordinator. We have people who are the volunteer and intern coordinators or the point of contact within specific departments. We have people that are the primary on our shark routine or the primary on the cuttlefish routine or the primary on our freshwater routine or whatever it is. So what gives people the chance is you can become a point person on something and you can start to make an impact, and you can also start to form connections at a higher level. So for example, I was talking about, working with the Sea Lion Show lights with our president and CEO, back when I was just a little baby-faced trainer and stuff like that. Or, having a direct conversation with our marketing team about, hey, what do you want to do? And for example, people will come to me and say, hey, I saw this trend on TikTok. Can we do this? And I know them personally and say, yeah, absolutely, Allie, we can do that. So being able to have those kinds of connections and it really has that tight knit community definitely helps for sure to be able to find those niches to help make your own, and everybody wants everybody to have those opportunities. So if somebody's the enrichment coordinator, let's say, you're happy to let them lead the way. If someone's the volunteer intern coordinator, you're happy to defer to them. It's how they want to work with their volunteers and interns. So because we all know everybody's roles and we all want to help facilitate everybody in their roles, it really creates a strong teamwork dynamic for sure.
Very cool. That's awesome. Earlier you were mentioning a particular fish that is worth a heck of a lot of money. On the black market, which obviously you would not sell it on unless you really need some upgrades. No, I'm kidding. But tell us about that, because it's very cool.
So like I mentioned, we have stories from all over. And one thing that we like to say is, why is there a dwarf cuttlefish in Niagara Falls? Why is there a California sea lion in Niagara Falls? Why is there an Asian arowana in Niagara Falls? Well, because it wasn't supposed to be. So one of our exhibits is called Dangerous Beauties, and it features an Asian arowana, which if you don't know what it looks like, you should look it up. They're often called dragonfish. They're a member of the largest scaled fishes in the world. Their cousins are the arapaima, which are absolutely massive fish, even featured on River Monsters. These guys are very long, slender, beautiful fish. They have scales about twice the size of a guitar pick. And as such, they're extremely valuable. And they're actually prized a lot in Asian countries and Asian cultures as signs of good fortune. And somebody was trying to smuggle this fish in, because when they're fully grown, they can range anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 in value, depending on their quality and everything. So if you can sneak one in, you're in for a big payday. So they're actually trying to smuggle him in the wheel well of a car, and he was seized at the border. And the border doesn't exactly have the capacity to care for an exotic fish. So they reached out to the aquarium several years ago. And now we have him on display, and it's a really great opportunity to see. This is an absolutely beautiful fish. This is exciting. They can jump, up to 6 feet out of the water. They can even grab birds, small mammals. But you have to be careful when it comes to the exotic pet trade and the exotic wildlife trade. And, it's a very cautionary tale of, there are these beautiful animals, some of which can be housed responsibly, and some of which you better left to their natural world or to the professionals. And that's just one story of how we were able to take an animal and give it a second chance at life. And now he is absolutely thriving. I was telling you, he loves baseball hats. Yes. So you bring a baseball hat to the aquarium, there's a good chance Bart's going to come and say hi.
I am so curious how they figured out that there was a fish in a wheel well, but that's not part of this interview. But like you said that to me and I was like, what the heck? I also have to tell you that when you asked me about it, you said, do you know about arowana? And I literally was like, did he just say, do you know about marijuana? And I was thrown for a second. And then I glanced up at the sign, because there's really great signage here, by the way. And I was like, oh, because I did not know about arowana. I'm a professional musician. I'm more versed in marijuana. But no, it was this really funny moment where I was like, well, this discussion's taking a turn. Okay. Right. But yeah, no, I do love how all of the animals here have a story, and the focus on that is very cool. And I think, science communication and conservation communication is so important. I think it's really cool, actually, that you transitioned to this position because you want to be able to share those stories on a larger level. I think that's really cool. I'm really passionate about sharing stories and not getting pooped on as well. So I do think that is very cool. But I'm curious what your thoughts are for just the general staff here. They're here to work with animals, but you do penguin encounters or you do sea lion encounters. How much, or just it's a small aquarium. People are going to be out in the hall. How much would you say that everyone who works here needs to be a communicator and needs to be focused on the people?
Absolutely. I think none of us would be where we were if we didn't have an experience. I distinctly remember being in 5th grade and going to SeaWorld and watching a orca show. And I distinctly remember a trainer standing in the front and he said, let's see just how high this whale can fly. And as he said that, they had done a remote send. So a whale breached apparently out of nowhere right behind him. And I remember it clear as day. And that's me saying, that's what I want to do. I want to be a marine mammal trainer. And then sure enough, I got there. One thing that we're really interested in and that I really loved from an animal care perspective is, especially in an area like Niagara Falls that's had its challenges over the years, our seal exhibit, for example, is open to the public. And some people in Niagara Falls, as in any place in the world, they're never going to get to see a harbor seal out there in the ocean. They're never going to get to see a gray seal, much less know about the challenges they face. But the world is connected, and animals of the world and the waterways of the world are connected. We have a wonder of the world literally in our backyard. So it's not hard to see how waterways are connected. And it's not hard to see how your actions in Niagara Falls can affect the Great Lakes and then on to the ocean. And so getting to see people come in and make those connections and want to come back. I recently was in, and I happened to be in as a little girl was picking up her animal adoption package, and she was squeezing that penguin plush so hard I thought the head was going to pop off. And the animal she adopted was sitting right there. And she just, the connection in the eyes is amazing. And so in answer to your question about how much you're expected, I don't even know if it's expected as much as it is guaranteed. And it is exciting to see those connections, to even if it's something as small as while our aquarists are feeding one of the sharks and rays, to have a little girl say, I didn't know that rays ate like that. It's addictive, honestly. It truly is. It's such a great experience to form those connections. When we're doing a sea lion presentation, you get that group, that kind of, or I do meet and greets after the sea lion presentations and have the little people or the parents growing up and said she would not be quiet about how much she wants to do this when she grows up. And I had no idea. Or you do an educational program, people say, I had no idea that's what it was like. I want to learn more. And so my job's almost easy, A, because we have an amazing staff that I love to share the stories of, but B, because being a nonprofit and being an animal care facility, the people who support us are what allow us to do the things we do. So getting to see the connections that get made and getting to form new connections and help inspire people, and then walking away knowing that person's visit was made better, or that person now knows more, that your animals' lives are made better because that person now cares and connects to that animal, or that animal out there in the ocean's lives are made better because maybe that person does take away, I really don't need to use plastic straws. And that might sound like not a big deal, but that's one person and that's one less straw,
Yep.
or that's one less plastic bag, or that's one less person that said, I really don't need to eat anchovies. Like I can eat something else. Or, you know what? I do shop for fish all the time, but yeah, I can take the seafood watch list. It's no skin off my back. And so you have the opportunity to make so many impacts, however small, that can have ripple effects beyond what you know. That's one thing our staff does a phenomenal job of is you can, if you see anybody in an aquarium shirt, they will happily talk to you and they will happily answer your questions. And as any animal caretaker will tell you, we're all in it for a reason, especially the people in animal care. It's not an easy field to get into. It's extremely challenging. It's physically demanding. So if you're in animal care, you want to be in animal care, and you want to be in animal care because you care for those animals. You care about the animals out there in their natural environments as well. And you want other people to care too. And so I don't think I know a single animal care person, however introverted some of them may be, who won't at least talk to you about why they do what they do or why they care for the animals they care for.
Yeah, no, that's something I've found on the pod that's interesting. Most of the time, people who want to do the podcast or who get suggested for the podcast or, want to be on or whatever, are talkers. But every once in a while, for some reason, I'll get someone who either the facility recommends or they want to do it, but they're not. And I'll be like, so tell me about your history. And they'll be like, I went to school. I like animals. And I'm like, shoot. But if I say, cool, all right, I will stop immediately all the other questions. And I say, well, let's talk about your animals. And it has never to this day failed to then they open up and then the floodgates are open. Right. And then I'm like sitting back, I'm like, okay. But yeah, no, I have definitely found that to be a thing, which is very cool. And yeah, so, I mentioned that this is a small aquarium, but it's about to be a whole lot less small. Absolutely. So let's talk about this really, really exciting expansion that's happening.
Absolutely. So we just recently officially announced the name that it's going to be called Great Lakes 360. We are expanding into what was formerly what was called the Niagara Gorge Discovery Center, and it was a geological museum that closed during COVID as part of the state park system. And basically, we had a really great opportunity to say this is an awesome chance for us to connect our visitors and the entire aquarium experience with the Great Lakes and with the Niagara River ecosystem, and really give these freshwater animals and this Great Lakes ecosystem their time in the sun. And so this is an extremely exciting addition. We're looking at a roughly 40% increase in exhibit space that really is going to give the aquarium a campus feel. It's going to expand our footprint in the Niagara Falls area, show a commitment to the Niagara Falls community, both that, hey, we're here and we're growing and we're committed to being here. We are committed to highlighting the wildlife and the nature and the ecosystems around us. And we are committed to doing it in a way that connects us to the state park system as well. I mean, the beauty of Niagara Falls and the Niagara Falls area is we have tremendous natural beauty around us. We are located in just a stunning location, and getting able to connect people to that and getting able to really put the spotlight on those species is a really special opportunity. So we have a lot of great things lined up. We have a lot of exciting plans. We can't get too much into all the details yet, but what I can say is so much thought has been put into how this is interpreted, how accessible it is, how we look at this, that this is going to be an incredible experience, an incredible feature to add on. It's the first expansion of the physical footprint of the aquarium in its history. Like I mentioned, it's a major both capital and animal-centric expansion as well. So this is really a exciting opportunity for the aquarium, both to grow, show a commitment to the local community, and show a commitment to highlighting those Great Lake species as well.
Very cool. And when is that slated to open?
We are looking at spring of 2024.
Awesome. So that's just about a year away.
It's not that far. It'll be here before we know it.
I was going to say, that year is going to go real fast.
Yes, it will.
Real fast. Very cool. And so, you mentioned the community. And I know you told me before, but y'all are pretty important to the community here, right? So talk about that and how the government feels about y'all and what impact you're having on this community. Because like you said, especially Niagara Falls specifically, it's gone through some tough times.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Niagara Falls is an incredibly vibrant and passionate community that has had its share of its moments. And but there's so much to love about this place, and we are so proud to be a part of this community. And we're extremely fortunate to have been supported by community members and partners. And the recent additions that we have done and commitments that we have made give back to that. We opened a community plaza that operates right along the Gorge Trail systems, and we have public events out there. Our seal exhibit is open to the public every day. We work with what's called the Arts Access Initiative. So people on benefits programs can visit once a month for free, as well as visiting other culturals for free. We're one of the only cultural attractions in the area that's open year round. So obviously we're a hyper seasonal market, being near Niagara Falls. You get those spring break and the summer break. And then the whole city kind of tones down. So being able to be an anchor point that's open year round and bringing people in year round is really, really huge for us. We're an educational resource. We're the experts on conservation in the area. So you can trust that when you come to the aquarium, you're going to walk away with knowledge that you can impact on your daily life that's going to help the nature and the environment around you. And we have been very fortunate to receive support from local elected officials, even at a state level as well. We were able to even host a press conference with the governor at the new Great Lakes 360 conference. Now, she was talking about Snowmageddon that was coming, but, still, we let her hold a spotted turtle and get to talk about our exciting new expansion. Nice. So we are extremely proud to be a part of this. We're proud to not only be that, but expanding our roots too. We're here and we're going to stay here and we're going to be here. We love Niagara Falls. We love the people of Niagara Falls. We love the community of Niagara Falls. Obviously, we love the natural beauty of Niagara Falls. So everything that we do and every new undertaking that we take on with community as a major focus in that. And how is this accessible for the community? How does this impact the community? What does this bring to the community? And how do we connect them with the animals and the natural world that's all around us?
Very cool. Is there anything else that you want to say about Aquarium of Niagara?
Come see us. And if you haven't been in 5 years, you haven't been. I mean, you were saying you've been about like 3 years ago and there were 2 or 3 exhibits that you haven't seen.
Yep.
And if you haven't heard of us yet, you will. We are on a very exciting track. We have a lot of growth, obviously coming with Great Lakes 360. There's a lot of growth that you've seen. And come talk to somebody. That's another thing. If you have a question, come talk to somebody. And hey, I'm wondering about this. Go to our guest services desk and have them call a trainer or an aquarist. And we're happy to talk to you. One of our big benefits is how close you can get to our animals, the stories that we have to tell. So if you want to hear a story, just ask, and we'll be happy to tell you one.
Yeah, this is a very transparent place too. Just for my listeners, I always say the more transparency, the better, I think. We did a whole tour. I've been through the bowels of this aquarium, behind the scenes at a bunch of places. There's nothing hidden. There's nothing, it's exactly what I think all facilities should be, especially to me because it's cool for the podcast and cool for me, frankly. But all joking aside, I think that, in light of certain films and things that came out, especially things that we've talked about on here before that were maybe more fictionalized than they should have been. But even when real things happen, because there are bad actors in every field, and we know that, I think transparency is what fights that. And I think that a lot of people learned the wrong lesson from those things happening. And for a while, there was a lot of, we need to be shut down in the zoo and aquarium world and hide that stuff. So when I come to a facility where we've talked a couple times and emailed, and that was it. And, it's cool that you gave me great animal experiences. Love that. Thank you. But what really stands out to me is when a facility opens up and shows me all the things. And I just got to walk through and I saw the life support and I saw the behind the scenes area and I saw how it's done. And you can't fake that. You can't go and make nicer penguin nest boxes to impress a podcast host. No one has the time for that, And so I just wanted to say that I really appreciate the transparency. And for anyone listening, this has been an incredibly great and open visit, which to me is wildly important and speaks to not only how good the facility is here, but I think that's going to bode well for y'all moving down the line, because I think more and more transparency is going to be what helps facilities rise above the lies that people try to spread. I mean, so I think that's very cool. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Are there any conservation organizations that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, so there are a few. We are kind of going back to that in terms of what you don't know, what you don't see. You don't know what you don't know. And one thing a lot of people don't understand is that 8 of our 9 California sea lions were rescued directly from their natural environments because of a variety of issues, such as struck by a boat, blind, couldn't eat fish correctly, coming up to humans for food. So we're a real second chance opportunity that for these non-releasable animals that would not survive out on their own. They would not be here without us, plain and simple. So we have some great partnerships. Just for one, because they've been great to us, the Pacific Marine Mammal Center, PMMC, is one that Lumiere came from. They've been really great to us. We focus really hard. We have a Penguin Days event coming up in March, and we work very closely with the Punta San Juan program.
So cool.
It's a great program, not just for penguins, but all kinds of wildlife there. They have incredible resources. So I'll give them the primary shout out. Punta San Juan, I think it's called Programa Punta San Juan on Facebook if you're looking for them. But there's so many great stranding facilities, especially if you're on one of those coasts. Make sure you support those guys. I always talk about with particularly rescue. A lot of people say, oh, you're a rescue facility. We're not a rescue facility. We're not a rehab. We are a part of that process, though. We are a part of that ecosystem. They're the, emergency care. We're the long-term care.
Right.
And so without them, we wouldn't be able to give these animals a second chance. And without us, they wouldn't have a place to send those second chances to.
Love that. Very cool. And now it is time. It's time now, don't you know? We've come to the end of the show. But there's one tale left to go. You're gonna laugh and say, oh no. It's time for the Rossifari poop story.
All right. So I will give you 2 options. You can have the sea lion poop story. Or the tiger pee story.
Tiger pee story.
Okay. So the sea lion poop story was just that one of my animals pooped during a very inspiring moment of a sea lion show. That was supposed to be very lovey-dovey, and I smelled something, and Mia was just pooping while I was trying to do this thing all about our love and relationship. So thank you, Mia. But the tiger story is actually during one of my very first internships. We had these 2 female tigers, and they were sisters. So as sisters are known to do, tigers and humans, they like to mess with each other. So one thing that they did is they had their troughs, and they would always go, and when you shift one on exhibits, you could clean, or you'd shift back and forth so you could clean. Whenever the one sister had access to the other sister's water, they would pee in it immediately. Just go right over, pee in their water trough, or lay in their water trough, or both. And so one of them, Sarika, I believe it was a beautiful tiger, and she was very playful. She liked to pretend stalk. It was funny because you would walk up and she'd think she was stalking you, and you could just see very clearly the top half of her head. But in typical tiger fashion, anybody who works at big cats a lot knows this, is if you turn their back, they will come at the fence, or they will, start stalking. Like that instinct is still very much in there. And in Sarika's case, it doesn't matter if you were 20 feet from the fence, you turned your back, she, would happily jump on you. Well, the way that this exhibit was structured is that they had these concrete kind of troughs on the outside. And that's where it all drained out to. So you would be cleaning the troughs on the outside, well, out of the reach, obviously, nice and safe, but, within a few feet of the edge of their holding. And this is one of my first days. And the keeper I was with says, okay, hey, can you go clean the trough on the other side? And they had already shifted. So Sarika had been laying in her sister's trough that she had peed in. And so this keeper knew, okay, well, to clean the trough, he's going to have to go turn around and kneel down on his back facing the exhibit. And so as I go to clean it, she moves over, opens, this is all, obviously it was all very safe, locks, everything. She knew exactly what, this is not the first time she had pulled this prank. And of course, as soon as she opened that shift door, Sarika, soaking wet in water and pee, runs up, jumps up on the fins, and just soaks me. Pee and water. And it was extremely well executed. Like I said, this was not this keeper's first time pulling this prank on unsuspecting interns. And it kind of goes back to my, my dog story of, okay, this forever. Like I was like, that's good. I now have a story that I can say I got sprayed with a tiger, using a tiger as the methodology.
Yes.
And, again, it just goes to there's so many people that work hard behind the scenes, and they love and they know them well enough to know, if I open this, Sarika's going to get him. Sarika's going to go soak this guy. It's so, you don't see what animal caretakers do and how committed they are, and down to knowing, if I do this in this order, she will do this, because I know my animal that well. Mm-hmm. And I care for them. And, even if it's Mia, like, yes, Mia pooped while I was trying to do something cute on stage, but I love her for it, So these are animals, and they're going to do their own thing in their own way. But the people behind the scenes are just as dedicated and do just as much.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for all of this. This has been great.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Well, there you have it, folks. Really enjoyed that interview and my time at Aquarium of Niagara. And like I said in the intro, I'm heading back there as soon as I shut up. So I'm going to shut up pretty soon. Two things first, though. I want to say thank you to my Red Panda level patrons, Laura Shank and Kristen Dickey, and remind you that you can support the pod by going to patreon.com/Rossifari. And also, I have a fun little story I want to share with y'all. I just love how small the world can be sometimes, and how interconnected different things can be sometimes. So, as most of you know, I was recently doing a production of $1 Million Quartet down in Florida, and we had some people joining the cast who I had not worked with before, one of whom was Kat Macari, and she's this incredible actress and singer and just a wildly fun and passionate person who joined the MDQ family, and I'm excited to have her there. And her boyfriend and I actually went to Moat Marine Lab together while we were down there. Her boyfriend, Brandon, was playing Jerry Lee Lewis in the production, and they have a real heart for animals. And Brandon actually used to help with sea turtle rescue and stuff. He would volunteer for that. And it was so cool having animal people with me and going to Moat together. So anyway, while we were at Moat, we were talking about the podcast and different things. And Kat was like, have you ever been to Aquarium of Niagara? And it turns out that her best friend is the wife of Eric. So I was able to talk about our interview and everything and how fun that was. And then we posted a photo together at Moat, and almost immediately I got a message from the Aquarium of Niagara Instagram page that was just like, how do you know Kat? And I was like, this is amazing. So very cool, small world, fun stuff with theater and animals and all the good things. All right, that's I gotta shut up. I gotta get to Aquarium of Niagara again. So go listen to the credits, which, said backwards, is Steiderk. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari, or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.